This video is about tissues. We're going to start with connective tissue. In the previous video, we looked at epithelial tissue, but connective tissue does just what it sounds like. It connects and holds the body together. There are lots of functions for connective tissue because a lot of your body consists of connective tissue. So it binds muscles to bones. We call those tendons. It supports your body. Bones do that. It protects your body like your ribs protect your heart. White blood cells protect your body from invaders. We call that your immune system. Fat helps to regulate the temperature of your body. It also helps to store energy. And your blood transports oxygen and nutrients around your body. Now let's look at the major categories for connective tissue. So connective tissue can be divided into two major categories, proper or specialized. Specialized connective tissue is subdivided into things like cartilage, bone, and blood. Now, the good news is that blood is basically liquid, bone is basically solid, and cartilage, like the stuff that makes up your ear or the end of your nose, is a little bit of a mix. All right, so it's solid, but not as solid as bone. It's liquidy, but not as liquid as blood. On the proper side, you're going to have loose connective tissue or dense. Connective tissue consists of cells that are not touching one another, typically. In between those cells is something called a matrix. If that matrix is dense, it's in the dense category. If that matrix is loose, it's in the loose category. So adipose tissue that stores a lot of fat is fairly loose. Reticular tissue is also fairly loose. We would, like lymphatic fluid and your liver and your spleen have some loose reticular fluid. Areolar is what would just fill kind of random spaces in your body. So a lot of your body is filled with that loose areolar connective tissue. In the dense category, if the fibers are close together, that matrix fibers are close together, and they're regular or sometimes reticular, or we would find that in things like your ligaments or vocal cords and tendons. If it's irregular, we would find that like in your dermis, the layer below your skin, your arteries are filled with more irregular dense tissue. In the cartilage category, we have lots of options there, like hyaline cartilage and fibrocartilage and elastic cartilage. Those are semi-solids. Hyaline or hyaline cartilage, you find that in your nose and in your joints. They act as like a shock absorber. The fibrocartilage you would find like in between your vertebrae or around your knee. The elastic cartilage, you'd find that like in your ears where it can kind of stretch but return. So let's look at some general characteristics of connective tissue. So on this side, we have connective tissue proper. On this side, we have connective tissue specialized. You'll notice that the cells in the tissue rarely touch. There's a matrix around them. Connective tissue is going to hold your body together. All right, so this is areolar, adipose. This is going to be what you'd find in a ligament. This is going to be a cartilage. This is bone. This is blood. Fibrous connective tissue consists of several types of cells, namely fibroblasts. The blast refers to the cell that's generating something. In this case, it's generating fibers, so it produces fibers. Macrophages, macro means large, phage means eat. So it's going to be large cells that engulf or eat other things, like white blood cells would fall into this category. Phagocytosis describes how that cell is surrounding and engulfing another type of cell. Mast cells produce things like histamines. Histamines cause allergic reactions, but histamines also prepare your body for stress. And adipocytes are going to produce like adipose. That's where those are fat cells. They're storing that adipose or fat tissue. Cyte refers to the cell. Here we can see examples of the connective tissue fiber types. All right, so we can see elastic fibers that are just that. They are very elastic. They can move away from each other and snap back. We see reticular fibers, and we see collagen fibers. So these are the fibers right here in the middle. Collagen fibers are the strong fibers that are going to spend a lot of their time supporting. And reticular fibers are going to form more of a network that creates a structure for the connective tissue. Loose connective tissue, you can see that the fibers are not as dense or compact as they are with a dense connective tissue. So if you look over here, this is loose connective tissue. These are the fibers, and they're kind of separated. Here's dense connective tissue where the fibers are very close together. Adipose tissue, this is a cell. That's the nucleus. This is where it's storing all of the fat molecules. So adipose tissue is a type of loose connective tissue. So it's proper, loose. Adipose would be an example. There's two major kinds of adipose tissue. There's the white, yellow adipose tissue or fat tissue. There's the brown. White, yellow you find in adults. It stores lots of energy, namely large triglycerides, provides a lot of insulation and protection. The brown type is more abundant in children. It stores a lot more energy, but the key here is that as it burns, it releases and generates a lot of heat. This is a type of tissue, connective tissue, you would find around your ears, elastic cartilage. So this is cartilage. And again, you can see the cells that are suspended in a matrix, and it's rare for the cells to be touching one another. Hyaline cartilage is another type of specialized connective tissue. It's in the semi-solid cartilage category. These are the cells that the dark area is the nucleus. You find these in your ribs, and in this case, your trachea. Joints are strong but flexible. An example of fibrocartilage, you find it's like in your knee or your vertebrae. So these are the cells, the cartilage cells. They're suspended in this little area. This is the matrix. Blood is a fluid type, a specialized fluid type of tissue. These pink dots are the red blood cells. These larger ones that are stained, those are the white blood cells. And there's all kinds of different white blood cells. You can see that neutrophils, lymphocytes, erythrocytes, monocytes. Now we're looking at a different tissue type, muscle tissue. There's three types of muscle tissue: cardiac, skeletal, smooth. Muscle is unique because it can respond to nerves. That's what excitability means. It can react and contract. The main job of muscle tissue is movement. You'll notice that muscle tissue can have striations or stripes. Cardiac muscle and voluntary skeletal muscle have stripes. Skeletal muscle is voluntary, but cardiac muscle and smooth muscle cannot be controlled. They are involuntary. Skeletal muscle has striations. Cardiac muscle has striations, but not smooth muscle. Cardiac muscle is only found around the heart. Skeletal muscle is attached to bone. Smooth muscle lines your interior organs, like your stomach. Nervous tissue is the last tissue type. It consists of two different types of cells, neurons and glial cells. Mostly we can find these in the brain and spinal cord. Neurons transmit information where the glial cells are going to support and protect the work of the neurons. So here's an example of a neuron. There you can see the diagram. Here you can see the actual thing. We would find it in places like the brain and spinal cord. It's transmitting information from one side of the body to another. So here's a great example of epithelial tissue. Simple because it's one layer, cuboidal because it's cube-shaped. Stratified, squamous means it's squished. Simple, one layer, column-shaped, columnar. This is muscle tissue. So how can you tell skeletal muscle from cardiac? They both have stripes, but cardiac muscle branches. Skeletal muscle doesn't. Cardiac muscle, you can see the nuclei. Here's the nuclei for the skeletal muscle. Here's the nuclei in smooth muscle. No striations in smooth muscle. This is epithelial tissue. So we can see the tissue lining, that's the apical surface. Here's some cilia. So if we saw that in small intestine, for example, the duodenum, that would be simple columnar epithelial tissue. This is connective tissue. Blood is the liquid kind. Osseous is bone, that's the solid kind. Cartilage is the semi-solid kind. In this case, hyaline cartilage. So now we're looking at a tissue type where we can see the nuclei of some cells, but they're not connected. They're suspended in this matrix. The matrix has all these fibers in it, so that's a great example of connective tissue, in this case, areolar. Here's some nervous tissue. We've got some neurons. There's the nucleus. These very specialized cells are sending impulses from one part of the body to another. Here's some smooth muscle. You can see the nucleus, but no striations. Here's an example of simple columnar cells. You can see the little tiny layer of cilia around them. Here's an example of compact bone. So this is a specialized, and it's a bone tissue. And what you're looking for here, it looks like tree rings. If you look for like tree rings, that's a giveaway for this type of connective tissue, dense. They packed together in that matrix. So the dark things right here, those are the cells. They're in this dense matrix called bone. That's the end of the information we have about tissues.